Good afternoon to everyone. Dr. Manisha Priyam, Mr. Sohair, Mr. Kayangulam Yunus, Dr. Achyut Shankar, Mr. Ajir Kuti, friends and well-wishers of the Vakkom Moulavi Foundation Trust. It is indeed a great pleasure to address you on the occasion of the 142nd birth anniversary of Vakkom Moulavi and the Vakkom Moulavi Memorial Lecture that Dr. Priyam will be giving in a short while. Vakkom Moulavi's contributions and special significance in not only the social and political development of Kerala, but also of the whole of India, are increasingly being known. But this was not the case even 30 years ago. What was known then was more about Swadeshabhimani, the paper, Swadeshabhimani Ramakrishna Pillai, but not about Vakkom Moulavi. And there is a reason why Vakkom Moulavi was also forgotten for a long time. When we think about it, it is truly remarkable that one young man, born and brought up in a small and, should I say, a very nondescript, obscure, as somebody said, village, this village of Vakkom, which was not a big city, not a big thoroughfare, not the prime destination of Travancore, that this young man had the vision and the daring to not only dream very big dreams, but to act on his dreams. And to dream about social and political rights for all the people of Kerala at a time when caste and community were in fact the dominant discourse. And then to use the instrument of a newspaper, Swadeshabhimani, and subsequently other journals, to use the instrument of the written word to turn those rights into reality. So when we think about this, that how could such a young man in an obscure village of Vakkom come up with these kind of dreams and actually execute them, we are indeed struck by what the previous speaker also said, which is that this must be an anomaly. It must be something very unique. And it is indeed true that we are the beneficiaries of those dreams and of those actions, even if all those rights that he fought for are not yet fully realized for all the people. So what is really astonishing about this? The astonishing thing, as I said, is that he was not educated formally. He was born in an obscure village, and yet he is able to link up with the ideas of the modern world. And this astonishing and perhaps even incomprehensible idea can be comprehended if we can see that those dreams and ideals and actions, they did not spring up in isolation. It is true he was in an obscure village, and it is true he did not go to a great school or a university. It's also true that he was a man of incredible intellect, a precocious prodigy of sorts, self-educated, read in many languages, taught himself many things. All these things are true. But I think he could not have made his unique contribution if he had not engaged with the foremost ideas of his time and the political and social struggles of his time. And I say deliberately engaged and not studied. It's not that he engaged, but he did not, it's not that he just studied those ideas. He engaged with those ideas. Because studying is indeed the first phase of understanding. But it is only by engaging by really wrestling with the ideas and thoughts and concepts of others, and by contributing to the development of those ideas, that one can make the outstanding contributions that Vakkom Moulavi did. If we say he studied the ideas of others, it is still a very passive action. It's a passive sort of understanding. Even though we know that any kind of learning involves motivation and action. But it is only through engagement, through really fighting with those ideas and making them your own, critiquing them, adapting them. Only then do we have the kind of deep learning, both individual and social, that allows us to transform societies. So what were those ideas and intellectual currents with which Vakkom Moulavi engaged? The first, of course, is the ferment of the Kerala Renaissance itself, the ideas of the great social reformers, the poets, the writers, and so on, of the early 20th century. Second current is the political and social thinking of the Indian Renaissance, which was arousing increasing numbers of people to mobilize for self-rule, for democracy, and for a new social order. And third, the ideas and ideals of the political and social reformers that were shaking the Islamic world of that time, from Turkey to Morocco, from Egypt to Iran, who were struggling against colonial subjugation and what looked like an onslaught on the Islamic world. And each of these strands of intellectual thinking that I've mentioned, each of these three strands, each of them were in turn influenced by Western political thinking, by Western ideas, social ideas, scientific ideas, and their implications for society, for governance, for human rights, and so on. And it is this engagement with these multiple strands of thinking that gave Vakkom Moulavi his unique place among the pantheon of the Renaissance leaders of Kerala. So Vakkom Moulavi is rightly known for his campaign and his struggle for introducing modern education, or education adapted to the needs of the time. Like the placard at the end says, Kalojita Vidyabhyasa, for Muslims and especially for Muslim women, Muslim girls. And the topic of today's memorial lecture is comparing the development of education in the different states of India, which is indeed a very valid topic given Vakkom Moulavi's legacy. So let me ask you to think how intriguing it is, how curious that India is home to such wide disparities in educational development, even after almost 7 decades of independence. On the one hand, we see Bihar and many northern states where millions of children are still unable to complete primary education. On the other hand, Kerala, which by the early 1970s had achieved universal primary education, and even the districts of Malabar, which were behind Travancore Cochin, they made the leap in one generation and could get everybody to complete primary education. And within another decade, the whole of Kerala had achieved almost universal secondary education. So how is this possible? In the same country, with the same political system, you have Kerala, which is almost like a developed country as far as education is concerned, and you have Bihar and many of the northern states that are similar to sub-Saharan Africa in many respects. Why do I say this is astonishing? For us in Kerala, we're so used to thinking of our state as being so far ahead of the rest of India, especially in education, that we don't really stop to think that it is something very, very unique. For me, the astonishing fact is that many of the northern states and eastern states, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Bengal, they were the epicenter of the major political movements of the first half of the 20th century. They were the states where political organizations were formed, all India political organizations, ideas were fermented, which led to the establishment of new parties, new organizations, and eventually the creation of the new Indian political state. Yet these states, which were in the vanguard of the political struggle, the national struggle, it turned out they were very behind in social reform, as is reflected now in their educational development and also in other indicators. So this outward exuberance that you see of political action, it seemed to hide a stunted social development, and one which became very apparent through the development of independent India. The lecture, I believe, will look at some of the factors behind this divergent and indeed contradictory development of the regions of India, and in particular, the role of social reform movements such as those led by Vakkom Moulavi. But there is another important aspect of Vakkom Moulavi's struggle for education, like that of other social reformers in Kerala, which distinguish it from the subsequent campaigns to just get children into school or to complete primary education. Education was not seen by them, by Vakkom Moulavi and by others, as schooling as such. Indeed, Muslim children at that time did go to school, so-called school, the traditional madrasas, which at one time in Islamic histories, these were the centers of learning, not just at the school level, but at the university level. So the children, the Muslim children, continued to go to those madrasas, and they got the education that was deemed appropriate by the then religious leaders. So by education, what Vakkom Moulavi meant was engaging with the most advanced ideas of the times, the advance of human knowledge in all spheres. And English education, as it was known then, was the vehicle to access this vast ocean of knowledge. By excluding themselves from English education, as he called it, or as it was known then, the Muslim community in particular shut itself off from the progress of mankind. Somehow they thought all knowledge had stopped with whatever had been created a few hundred years ago. This modern education was not only a tool for accessing modern professions, which of course it was, but it was above all the means for engaging with the world on equal terms. So instead of cowering in a mental ghetto and just seeking solace, comfort in mutual ignorance, I'm ignorant, you're also ignorant, so we are happy with that. Instead of doing that, the message of Vakkom Moulavi and his papers and his journals was that people should fearlessly engage with all that is the product of the human mind. And moreover, this knowledge and education should no longer be the prerogative of the privileged or just of men, but should indeed be the right and even the duty of all. So Vakkom Moulavi Foundation Trust has been set up as a memorial to Vakkom Moulavi because his contribution was forgotten. The reasons why it was forgotten, that is another story, and it should be researched further. But the VMFT is more than a memorial. It is first and foremost a platform for bringing together people to engage with ideas, to influence and shape our collective action. These ideas may be in different spheres, could be in natural sciences, social sciences, politics, governance, religion, and so on. And increasingly, these ideas will be at the intersection of these different spheres. We do not believe that these ideas will need necessarily come from abroad. They could come from here. They would come from other countries which are traditionally not seen as the originators of new ideas, because now the whole of humanity is involved in development of some sort. What is relevant for us at VMFT, are the ideals and forces that will help shape Kerala and Indian society for a better future for everybody in this society. And what is relevant for us is our own contribution to developing these ideas. We are committed, therefore, to building VMFT as an institution that can contribute to building those ideas, that can contribute to engaging with the world, that can contribute to creating the mental frameworks that can help to build a better future. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.